The Lord will get you through situations that seem impossible. Trust Him. With the release of her debut, Taking My Voice Back, country-infused pop singer-songwriter Brooke Robertson emerged as a talented musical storyteller whose songs have touched on a range of deep personal topics. Taking My Voice Back, which articulates Brooke's healing journey as a victim of childhood sexual abuse, has become a signature song for her and a lifeline of hope for others walking through similar circumstances. This is her story. This is Today's Nashville. This is Faith. Brooke, thank you for sitting down with me today on Today's Nashville. Welcome.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm so thankful.
I love your songs.
Thank you.
And they're really making an impact on others' lives.
It's been healing for me, and I get to share that with other people, and that's a blessing, such a blessing.
So tell me, are you living in Louisiana, is that correct?
Live in Southeast Louisiana. Yep. I haven't made the jump up here yet.
You haven't made the jump, but you're always back and forth to Nashville.
Yes, pretty often.
Tell me about your life. Tell me how you got into music, and we're going to talk about your journey. It's very powerful, and I think it's going to touch a lot of people's lives. But let's just talk about you growing up and your family in Louisiana.
Yeah, Louisiana. So I just lived like just a typical childhood. I, went to public school and I played basketball for many years. I was always into sports. Never was a really girly girl kind of girl, and even like rode horses and competed in barrel racing for many years, even through college. Yeah, so went to college and got a bachelor's in kinesiology, and I had no thoughts on music at all.
Really?
Yeah, I sang on the worship team when I was a kid, from like maybe 11 to early 20s, but it was something that I never really thought I would do professionally, and I had never written songs before. Like, it was just something that I loved to do. Never thought I would do anything professional. And so I had my mind on college. I'm going to go to college. I'm going to be an occupational therapist. I had a heart to help people who've been through trauma to get back to normal as possible. And God closed that door in 2016, couldn't get into colleges. And throughout that year, though, I was doing covers on YouTube and Facebook and all that. And
so were you singing at that point, or just kind of playing around with it?
At church.
At church?
Yep, just at church. Through that year, though, that last year of college, I was putting covers out. So I was kind of like entertaining it a little bit. Had friends that helped me do that. And so still in my mind, it was just for fun. And when God shut the doors for school, He like almost immediately opened the doors for music. And I had a manager reach out, wanted me to come up and write for the first time ever. And so I was like, this doesn't make sense, but okay, like, I don't have a plan B, and I'll just trust God. Like, I'm going to go and just see, right?
Well, were you a believer at an early age? Were you a church-going family? Or
yeah, I was
me about
always
that.
raised in church since I was a kid. Very grateful for that. It gave me the foundation to be able to walk through the things that I had to walk through as a little girl. When I was 10, I was sexually abused. And so to have the Lord really walk through with me those 15 years of silence where I didn't say anything, then opening the doors to music and giving me an opportunity to eventually share my story.
Let's go back to that time. Now, do you have any siblings?
I do. I have a younger brother and an older sister.
Okay.
So I'm the middle.
So let's talk about that. Can we talk?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, so when I was 10, I was sexually abused, and I went through like a 15-year period of quiet silence where I promised myself that I would go to the grave with this story. I convinced myself that I was okay and that I didn't need to say anything. And so for 15 years, I buried it under the rug, pretended like it didn't happen. I buried shame. I felt dirty. I felt alone. I felt scared. And as a 10-year-old girl, like, what do you do? And for me, it was safer just to be quiet. And so I went to school, had a smile on my face. I was a straight A student. I didn't have the red flags they say to look for in a kid. I didn't have that because I hid it, and I hid it well. I got good at it. And so throughout that 15 years, God placed different people in my life that would show me, like, Brooke, you're not alone in this. And I could see that it was possible to find freedom, but I didn't quite know how to get there. And so Fast forward 15 years later, God opens the door to music, and I'm sitting here praying, God, I don't feel good enough for this. There's so many other people who can sing and play guitar better than me. Like, why do you have me in the industry? And this story surfaced, and God was like, it's time. And he highlighted something in my life that I didn't realize, but I hadn't forgiven this person. And he's so gentle in that, and so I just prayed. I was like, God, I don't even know what this is supposed to look like. I don't even know where to start, because I've got to tell the whole world, but even scarier, like I have to tell my family what happened as a little girl. And so as I was praying and praying, I knew that I had to forgive this person. And for me, I reached out to my abuser, and I was just like, hey, this is where I'm at in life, and I want you to know that I forgive you, and Jesus loves you. And I can even tell you where I was in that moment, and just the feeling that I felt light again when I let unforgiveness go. And I went up, wrote this song called Taking My Voice Back, and it has been so healing for me even through these 4 years. God's just been putting his finger on things in my life, ideas and thought patterns that I've had that weren't him, and just showing that it was tied to trauma, and that he's wanting to heal me fully will I let him. And it all started with forgiveness, and it's been a beautiful journey.
How'd your family handle all of this?
It was really hard for my family. My dad probably took it the worst, and that was the hardest to tell my dad, because he's very protective, And so I remember the day before I told him, I was so anxious and nervous. Wasn't sure even what to say and what questions he was gonna ask. And I just felt the Lord say, Brooke, let me walk in this conversation with you, with your dad. And so I went and told my dad, and he obviously was hurt, and we were crying together. And later that day, he said, Brooke, if you can forgive, then so can I. And that was the start. I was like, what is God doing? He's gonna start in my family. He's gonna start showing me what this looks like through my family. And even through my grandmother, she had shared that she had been abused as a child. And just seeing how God was working in my family, I just knew he was going to use it even bigger than what I ever thought.
And your mom?
My mom was really heartbroken, and they were all really confused as to why I didn't say anything, but they understood that it was out of fear. And I always reassured them, if it wasn't for Jesus and y'all bringing me to church and going to youth camp and all the things, I don't think I'd be where I was. And so I thanked them for giving me that foundation, very grateful for that.
The Lord is so good.
So good.
Tell me what the abuser said to you. Was it shocking?
Well, it was a conversation that they were very apologetic. They were receiving at first. And fast forward a month before the record release, they reached back out and didn't want to call it abuse. And I guess they were afraid. And I remember those feelings flooding back in, and I kind of wanted to back out at that moment. I was like, there's no way I can do this, And thank God for people in my life that have held me accountable, that have been able to be there, with me through it, and just say, Brooke, the enemy's trying to keep you quiet still. You see what he's trying to do. And once I realized that, I'm like, you're right. I'm going to move forward with this, and that's the best thing I could have ever done.
When we come back, we're going to listen to your song.